So we have two more guests that are joining us on the panel as we continue to discuss this issue of hijacked buildings in the city of Johannesburg. Joining me now from the IFP, that's the Gauteng Provincial Secretary, Mr. Alko Ngobese. Also from the Emergency Services here in Johannesburg, from the Compliance Division, we have Chief Gopi. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the panel now.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Mr. Ngobese. I think it'll be disingenuous for anyone to think we can separate politics from the policies that affect how a city is run, especially when it comes to such a serious issue as hijacked buildings. As the IFP, where do you think things can be tweaked to make sure that, this problem that seems to have solutions is actually solved?
Well, I think first of all we need to stop this finger-pointing game where you find politicians are pointing fingers. There has to be a political will from all political parties to say here's a crisis. These are the human beings that we are talking about. How then do we deal with this problem rationally instead of pointing fingers and grandstanding? IFP is not part of that grandstanding part of it. We are saying we are dealing with human beings. We must make sure that people have fallen victims of these people who have hijacked the buildings, who are collecting money but not paying the services to the municipalities. How then do we make sure that those that qualify in terms of RDP housing and stuff are accommodated so that their lives are improved going forward? So that is a cry from the IFP to say that let us work together as all political parties in the city to ensure that the lives of our people are not compromised in between along the line. Because what is happening now, you'll find out that the current administration is pointing finger at the previous administration. That is not going to help. We need the provincial government, the MEC Mashatile, to also come into play, put our political differences aside, and ensure that we deal with human beings and we correct we cannot have allow the anarchy in the inner city of Johannesburg, where people just hijack buildings. 85 buildings have been hijacked in the inner city. That cannot be allowed. And
Mr. Mashatile actually spoke about it. I understand he spoke of having a task force from the different departments that need to come together, because you can't just expect, the South African Police Service to do it on their own, or even the City Council to do it on their own. But, from Home Affairs, from all these housing departments, everyone needs to come together to make sure that there's a solution. But also the issue of getting the business sector involved. I think like what Mayor Herman Mashaba had alluded to say perhaps if they come into the picture and buy these buildings, and maybe perhaps, they can be taken care of, and, people can be accountable for these buildings. And then you look at the people that need low-cost housing. How do they get integrated, into this plan?
First of all, we need to do a socio-economic survey. Who qualifies for what? Some of the people, they come from different provinces that have already been subsidized before by the national government. Who qualifies for what? Who qualifies for renting? Who qualifies for giveaways, the RDP?
Yes, but I think it's quite evident at this point that most of the tenants that are in these buildings cannot afford to really be renting a house that is more than 5,000 rand a month. They need low cost rentals, and this is what we're seeing. Those are the people that I need.
Yeah, absolutely. Then the land must then be identified where low cost housing must then be built, and people are accommodated.
Yeah, so that'll be the better way than to have business come in and buy these buildings.
Absolutely. And also this issue of waiting list is a problem, because nobody knows how far I am on a waiting list in terms of housing allocation. The waiting list is held by the provincial government. At the local level, I think the municipalities now have to be given a right to have the waiting list, so that we are able to see who's number 200 on the list. People can then have a hope. People have been waiting on the waiting list since 1996, and nothing is happening.
I've been wanting to come to you, Captain K. Makuvela, obviously before we took the break, and I was saying to you, this feels like deja vu every time we have this People's Imbizo, and you've been graceful enough to, come and engage us all the time. But we seem to be getting the same sentiments, just like we're getting from the audience, that it appears the police are just do not care enough. They're indifferent when people come and report cases to them. And not only that, but they seem to be caught with their hands in the cookie jar as well, that they're involved with these criminal elements that are happening. And this is why we don't see the criminal justice system working and making sure that these people are prosecuted and, we see some kind of progress.
Well, what I can say is that It's a repeat statement, which I said, we don't own buildings as a police.
No, Captain, not owning of buildings, but the criminal activity that happens that requires the police to intervene.
But what I heard from the audience, they are complaining about police who are involved in these circus.
Okay, the whole syndicate.
Yes,
hijacking of buildings.
That's what I heard. And what I want to say is that from the police side, we don't evict people. The police don't evict people. If there are police who are coming to the building and evict people, those policemen are criminals themselves. So police, their job is to protect and serve. So when the sheriff comes to the police station, they come to the police station for them to be escorted to effect the eviction. But the police does not do eviction themselves.
Okay.
So that is what people must understand. And if there are policemen who are known to be involved in these things, the office of the provincial commissioner is very close here in Johannesburg. People don't hesitate to go and make an appointment with the provincial commissioner, explain to her what is it, what you experience with your people. Besides that, the police station themselves, because I don't believe it's the station commanders who are involved in these things, are ordinary members, if indeed there are those people who are involved. Just report to the station commander that these are the people who are involved in 1, 2, 3. Policemen does not even take or write anything to evict people. And policeman is not allowed even to go to the building and say to the people, go out. When you see us as the police into the building, we are going there to raid because we got the suspicion that there are criminal activities which are taking place. And we do search those houses, we do find criminals, and during that period, when we finish, we go with our suspect. Those who want to remain to stay in the building, they remain in the building. We don't evict people.
Okay, so I hope that point has been clarified. But there's also the issue of, again, the statement of the Deputy Police Minister to say it is foreign nationals that are mostly involved in the hijacking of these buildings, that are occupying most of these inner cities, and that are responsible for the criminal activity that is happening. Your comment, please, Captain K. Makubela, is that statistics that, that support the statement from the Deputy Minister, from your understanding?
As I've indicated.
I don't think that will do. That's not the answer that, no?
Yeah. Let me answer. Let me answer what you said.
Yes.
As I've indicated, I'm speaking for the South African police. I'm not speaking for the ministry. The minister have got its own spokesperson. The deputy minister have got his own spokesperson. If you want to get the clarity in terms of his stats, you can contact that office. They will assist you.
So you are not privy to those stats?
No.
That's what you're telling us today? Okay. All right. I think that should be good enough. Yes? No? Okay. We'll come back to the audience in just a few minutes. I just want to get closing remarks from the both of you from the emergency services, and then we'll just deal with the audience going forward.
I guess they've raised a point of measures that needs to be put in place where 7 people have died in a building. It's very sad when you arrive in a building, there's a fire, you find people hanging, one has jumped, most people are on the balconies and on the windows. And the most challenge would be that that building doesn't comply because when you go inside, the escape routes have been closed off. People cannot go from the second to the third floor. The escape routes have been closed off. They only have one entrance. The other thing is that they don't have any firefighting equipment inside the building itself. So in case of a fire, someone can just grab a hose and try to extinguish the fire. There's none of those things. Hence, as a process, as fire safety would want to give them notices and try to assist them for the building to comply. So in case there's a fire, they're able to evacuate from the building. There's an evacuation drill that needs to be done as well if a building complies, to say that if there's a fire, how do then people need to go out.
Is that happening within these buildings? Particularly the ones that we've identified today that are hijacked?
Because those buildings do not comply, then we do not have those
Mr. Gopi, thank you, Nana. Should these buildings be condemned if they're not complying to the safety measures that you speak of?
Yes. What we do is we initially go out and identify what is wrong in those buildings, and we then identify the manager or the owner of the building and issue them with a warning. And then we try and assist them to comply, and failing which it is our duty to then ensure that that building is condemned.
But how much of that do you see, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, buildings that are not complying to safety requirements?
Well, there's quite a bit. You must understand that the buildings that we have in the city of Joburg or Johannesburg are old buildings. And over the years, they've gone into a state of disrepair. Now, our issue is, as I mentioned earlier, is that we cannot locate, it's sometimes very difficult to locate the responsible person to fix that building. And that's when it becomes a problem. And then you'll find that it's not only fire that is an issue, there's health issues, and there's all different types of departments that are involved. And that's when we have to now get together as a multidisciplinary task team to go out and try and assist those residents to get their building in order.
Okay. Well, yes, Mr. Ngozi, very quickly, I want to go to the audience. I've kept them waiting for too long. I think they've been very patient.
Yeah, perhaps we need to be proactive as a city. But what we are saying, we are reacting to a situation. There has to be a program to say which buildings are not complying. We have building inspectors in the city that their job must go out there and inspect those buildings, and then compile a report, and then the council must take a resolution on those buildings.
Yes, and I think they have done that. I think the problem is now identifying who needs to take ownership of these buildings. Exactly. Then something can be done. I think that's where the problem is.
The city must be bold enough to say,
at this point,
if you can't find the owner of this particular building, expropriate that building.
Yes. And I'm sure there's litigation issues also that the city council will come across with just trying to take ownership of these buildings.
Absolutely.
But it's something that needs to be done going forward. It needs to be tackled.
It has to be.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Ngobe. So let's now go to the audience.
Ngiyanibingelela nonke. Ukhansela uZondo la eWard 61 eJeppstown. Ngizoqala lapha kubaba Makhubela. Baba Makhubela ukhulumisa kweofficial. Uma uthi khona la ngangene khona ama eviction maphoyisa ninesandla esikhulu sokusiza labantu laba ukuthi bakhipha abantu bethu. Number 1. Number 2, EMS lento ezenikhuluma ngazo bengicela nibe ne program mina yokuthi wozani on the ground emakhanseleni nifundisa abantu ngokuphepha emafletini abo. Why ngithola ukusha abantu kwenzeka lento zama disaster management anizi kuzofundisa abantu on the ground. Sebenzisana nathi thina amakhansela EMS lo isho lapho ngiyaqala ukizwa ake sidibane on the ground. Nalabantu bama inspector, building inspector, ngina 10 months ngilapha na ehodini angaze ngibone ngisho yi1 othi nizocheck amabhilidi ama eviction mina ngilimaza eJeppstown. Besicela beze on the ground bakwazi ukufundisa umphakathi wethu. Umphakathi wethu uyalidinga usizo. Is not labantu bahlezi laphana ngoba abafuni ukukhokha, but usizo lona bangazi ufune bahambe ngayiphi direction. Okwesi4 ngizela ku city yokugcina ngo-October, if I'm not mistaken, siyamakhansela onke savota ku emotion ukuthi no eviction la in a city. Ngiyamangala ukuthi lama eviction aqhubeka kanjani manje kule new administration. Why savota ukuthi no eviction ayaqhubeka kodwa ithini city ngalokho namanje khona 65 every now and then abantu bayakhishwa ene uyadingeka wena khansela mawuthi uyafika lapha kujiye kuboshiswe wena khansela.
Some African brothers wait, we are not xenophobic. What is happening? They're calling themselves AMA owners. Those owners banama illegal structures inside the building. It's MPD. I don't know which we've tried to complain. Then in those illegal structures, surely there is a building plan, but connected their own is nyoga electricities, which cause a building. We don't have fire extinguishers. A building ingolile. All these things is we complain. When we complain, they're saying who you are to complain. you don't have rights to complain because
Right.
when you're asking about the ownership, these brothers, they're saying they're owning the property, but they don't pay City of Joburg, including now your administrator. He doesn't pay City of Joburg. Tina, as tenants, we do pay. When we pay, where are they paying? Where is that money going
All right,
to?
Thank you. I just want Captain Magubela, I think your role here is being misunderstood perhaps as the police when it comes to evictions. Perhaps if you can just once again explain what your role is when it comes to these evictions and issues of housing, illegal structures in these houses. Does that fall under your department as well?
Thank you again. As I've indicated,
Yes. I know you have before, but perhaps you just
Yeah,
need to reiterate it.
what's very important is that people must understand. That's why I said, if there are policemen who come and evict you, those policemen, they are criminals themselves.
But if they come
Because if they come with the sheriff, they are escorting the sheriff to come and evict you.
and that is lawful for them
That
to
is
escort
lawful,
a
yes.
sheriff.
We
Okay.
escort the people to go and do that.
I don't know, Sisi,
but
what
the police
happened?
themselves, they cannot
Where is she?
come and evict people. That's
Okay.
what people must understand. And when we come to the building, we raid the building because there is a suspicion of criminal activities.
Okay.
And we do
You have
arrest
reason
those
to believe
suspects.
there's criminal activity that is happening in the building.
Yes.
So that is what informs you to go and raid the building.
correct.
And that is well within the law as well.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I think I'm also learning and understanding. Oh, yes, EMS, we have to come back to you. There's an issue raised of perhaps, you could start a program of awareness for people to understand what they need to do when a fire breaks out. Already, some of these buildings, a hazard that is waiting to happen, a disaster that is waiting to happen. I don't know how you see that. Is that something that you could do, perhaps, as a department?
Yes, we do have a program in place, which is public information, education and relations. We have the teams in regions which are responsible to go out. They go to ECDs, early learning childhood, to buildings, just to teach them in case of a fire what needs to happen, which number to call. But we are going to liaise with the councillor and find the relevant people to make them meet so that they're able to assist.
Receptive of you when you come to try and teach them? Do they welcome you and do they actually take time to understand what you're saying?
It depends on the building. Hence, I said on the 85 buildings, those buildings are non-compliant. And we can't assist. Those buildings are land compliant and there's nothing that you can do. There are no escape routes. As the sister has said, there are illegal structures within the buildings. The escape routes have been blocked. But if it's a building that is compliant, we can come and assist those people, do evacuation drills, and also assist them with the firefighting equipment. The owner has to buy firefighting equipment.
And that's a wrap for this edition of People's Imbizo. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my panel who have been with us for the past 1 hour. From the City of Johannesburg Emergency Services, we had Compliance Division Chief Gopi. Also, we had Nana Khadewe from the Disaster Management, also from EMS. Of course, Captain K. Makubela, South African Police Services spokesperson, was joining us on the panel. And Mr. Alko Ngobese from the IFP, he is the Gauteng Provincial Secretary, who was also joining us. And Councillor Madisha, ANC Ward 64, was also joining us on the panel. And of course, you're at home for joining in the conversation. We thank you, and that's a wrap for this edition. Like I said before, from myself, Audrey Shimanda, thank you for watching the program, and goodbye.